Welcome back, SuperTalk Mississippi. Dave Hughes here, and joining us now on the air and also at SuperTalk TV, supertalk.fm/watch. The executive director of the Mississippi Emergency Management Agency, Greg Michel, joins us. Greg, how you doing today?
Hey, good morning, Dave. Doing great, man. At it again this morning.
It just never seems to stop. I've talked to you more this year than I have in the last 10 years, and we've known each other forever. But it just seems like every couple of weeks we have to get together and discuss something. And now it is a tropical storm about to be hurricane again, Zeta. And the path seems to be pretty locked in on the computer models. I think it's coming this way, it looks like.
Yeah, matter of fact, we just got an update at the 10 o'clock update, and the path actually shifted a little bit further to the east. So now we're looking at more of a potential direct impact from this storm than what we had earlier today. So, the thing with these storms that get out in the Gulf is, they're a little bit unpredictable. This one is not predicted to get very strong, but my concern is going to be how strong is it going to get when it gets out into the middle of the Gulf. It's swimming across the Gulf now, so it will intensify again when it gets out in the middle of the Gulf, and it is supposed to start breaking down and lose some strength as it approaches the shore. But the stronger it gets, then the further it's got to go to de-intensify. So we just have to wait and watch it over the next 24 hours and see what it does.
Well, and that's one feature of this storm that's actually a very good thing. It's a very rapidly moving storm. Last update I saw, I think it's moving to the northwest at 14 miles an hour, which means it'll spend less time over that water and have less time to strengthen, which is a good thing for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is a fast-moving storm, and that is one of the advantages, which means it'll come in and hopefully move out pretty quickly. They did, with the shift in the storm moving back to the east a little bit, they did increase the storm surge projections from 4 to 6 to now 5 to 8 feet all along the Mississippi Gulf Coast and Hancock, Harrison, and Jackson counties. So a little bit of an increase in the storm surge threat, because now moving to the east, it's not going to be disrupted as much moving across Louisiana's land masses before it would hit us. So it's changed a little bit, but we're going to continue to watch it, and we'll keep those messages coming out as we get updates.
Now, as this thing moves in, of course, the major impacts are going to be along the coast, as they usually are. But we could see some effects from this inland as well, right?
Absolutely. So I'm going to take us back a little bit to Hurricane Delta, and let me just kind of walk us through with the effects we had that. Again, not a strong storm, but if you remember Saturday morning after that storm made landfall in Mississippi, we had about 100,000 Mississippians without power, and some of those individuals were without power for 7 to 10 days. So this is not anything that we need to take lightly. People do need to be preparing for the effects on this. We're talking, we already talked about the storm surge. We're looking at rain, 3 to 6 inches in some places across the state. Wind gusts upwards up to 75 miles an hour possible, which means spin-off tornadoes are definitely possible. But we had a lot of wind damage to utilities when the Delta came ashore, so we're going to be prepared and anticipate somewhat similar situations with this storm.
Now, what areas are we looking at where we could see that kind of impact?
So this storm, the net effects, main effects for the rain and the wind seem to be more to the eastern part of the state. Delta had a big effect on the southwestern counties. You're in my hometown there in Pike County, then back to the west, Amite County, Wilkinson County. They got hit pretty hard, but Lincoln County. So we're looking at more so toward the more eastern portions of the state, on the eastern portions of Interstate 55 with the rain and the wind, because that's going to be, right directly there on that eastern side of that storm.
And that is, if at all possible, it's good news, because the further east it is, the less time it's going to spend in Mississippi, because it's closer and closer to getting on out of here right after it makes landfall. And right now, the projected paths that I'm seeing, it's going to come in on the Mississippi Gulf Coast and just kind of clip along that southeastern corner and go straight into Alabama. That's what I'm seeing anyway.
That's right, and I talked to Brian Hastings, who's my counterpart in Alabama earlier, and they're already kind of ramping up their posturing, given the changes in the track of the storm, and they're issuing states of emergency and preparing whether or not they're going to do a pre-landfall declaration over there. So, yeah, they're going to get it. But again, the storm is supposed to be moving pretty fast. Hope it gets in and out of here. We're looking at landfall sometime late tomorrow evening. I say late tomorrow evening, 7, 8 p.m., but we'll start feeling the tropical storm wind effects earlier Wednesday afternoon. And then hopefully this thing will be out of here, late Wednesday night, early Thursday morning, and then, over into Alabama. So everybody needs to get ready now. The time to prepare for the storm is now. And we got about a little over 24 hours before we would start feeling the effects of tropical storm force winds as it begins to make landfall tomorrow night.
And we talk about this all the time. There's always the danger of tornadoes spinning up out of this. Maybe not as much this time because that's usually in the northeast quadrant, which we may not see that much of for very long. But there are other effects that can happen. And one of the big ones that I keep preaching, all the stuff outside that could turn into an airborne missile if the wind gusts get up to 40, 50 miles an hour, get that stuff strapped down and get it secured away so we don't have that problem, because it's a problem every time, isn't it?
Yep, need to strap down any patio furniture, anything that you've got outside that could be blown around, because I can tell you one thing. If there is one thing that has been certain in 2020, it's been uncertainty. So we need to be prepared for tornadoes and anything that could come about and spin off tornadoes, wind and the rain. So great point, David. Definitely get your stuff tied down. Bring in anything that you can until the storm passes through, and you'll need to have that done by late tomorrow afternoon, and hopefully this thing's out by Thursday.
Now, the reason why this is going over to the east so far, and that forecast may continue to change between now and landfall, is because of that cold front coming this way. And normally we'd be focused on that and worried about maybe getting some thunderstorms out of that. Is the hurricane sucking a lot of that energy out to where we don't have that to worry about quite so much? It's just a temperature drop, or could we see some impact from that as well?
Well, so we haven't seen anything as far as forecast. We had the National Weather Service in on our 9 o'clock staff meeting this morning, and we did not get a huge forecast or anticipation of bad thunderstorms. But to your point, I'm very thankful that this cold front is causing those wind shears along the Gulf Coast, because that's what's going to cause this storm to rapidly de-intensify. So that's what we're anticipating. So thank goodness for the cold front. It's going to cause it to move very quickly and get out. But we don't have any major projections of major thunderstorms. But again, look, it's always a possibility. Right now, we're looking at that storm surge along the coastal counties, the rain and wind threat as this system moves through quickly over to the eastern portion of the state.
And the other thing to remember, even though we feel like we have had more than our share, and we have, we're still a month out from the end of hurricane season, and who knows, if it's like 2005, that might not be the end of it. So we have to keep watching this stuff.
Oh yeah, we're still got a ways to go, and so let me just throw. So Zeta is the 27th named storm we've had this year, and if you remember, one of the first conversations we had earlier in hurricane season, Dave, we talked about that the National Hurricane Center predicted somewhere around 16 to 18 storms. We will certainly have well surpassed that. The record number of named storms was in 2005 with 28. So we get one more, and we're going to tie 2005. So we still got a long ways to go. We got to get to the end of November, but we could see this linger even into December. So we still got a ways to go. We got to stay alert, stay alive.
Well, that's the point. We just have to be constantly aware of what's going on. And I know you guys are ready. I assume the same COVID restrictions are in place regarding shelters down on the coast.
Absolutely. And we've got, and I don't know, we've got about a dozen or so shelters that are on standby. We've got a number of shelters on the coast that will be opening up later this afternoon. One to include the medical needs shelter will open in the morning at 9 o'clock. But yes, PPE will be required. You will be required to wear a mask if you come into a shelter. We will have COVID testing available in these shelters. Not be required, but it'll be available. But no one will be turned away from a shelter.
And I tell you what, if you, can you hang on through the break?
Yeah, sure. Hang on a few more minutes. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Just a couple of minutes because we've talked about the hurricane. Let's talk about the pandemic for just a minute when we come back and how things are going there with PPE and everything else. It's Greg Michel, the Executive Director of the Mississippi Emergency Management Agency. And we were talking about the shelters that will be activated and talking about specifically the PPE that is required to be used and some of those things, which brings us neatly around to the pandemic. How are things going PPE-wise and your part of the pandemic response in Mississippi?
Going well. You know, been working really hard over the last few months to get a good handle on our PPE and getting that stockpile in place, and we've been successful in doing that. Great effort by the men and women of the National Guard that's been working to help support us getting that PPE out where it needs to be. But we're looking good. We've accumulated about a 60-day supply, which is what CDC has recommended that all the states have, so that we have enough PPE to manage through the next surge in cases that we would anticipate. And of course, if you see what's happening around the United States right now, we're seeing that in some states. Fortunately, we haven't seen a major uptick in the state of Mississippi right now, but we're doing really good. We've worked real hard, and we've got to a comfortable spot with PPE, and should we have a surge, we're prepared to respond to that.
Very good. And I know the National Guard has helped you out quite a bit with that in terms of logistics, haven't they?
Oh, absolutely. We could not have done this without the National Guard. They've done a yeoman's job of getting this stuff out and working, and just about 880 Air and Army National Guard personnel have worked in a myriad of functions to include testing, logistical delivery, and even working in the lab. Helped us distribute about 5.9 million community masks. That doesn't include what we've sent out to the hospitals and long-term care facilities. That's just what we've distributed out to the community mask program. About 330,000 miles they've driven delivering this PPE. So, yeah, they've been a huge partner to us in this whole deal, and it's been a team effort.
Well, it has been a difficult year for just about every possible category you can think of. And I do have to say, in my opinion, the folks at MEMA there, you have done just an incredible job dealing with things as they have popped up. And we're not done yet, so you can't take a vacation quite yet on any of that. Let's get past hurricane season, and then we can talk about it, Greg.
Yeah, I'm not cashing in on any frequent flyer miles anytime this year, so I'm going to be here.
Now, just one more time before I let you go, just capsule summary again of Hurricane Zeta headed this way, going to have some impacts for the Mississippi Gulf Coast.
Yes. So key takeaways on this: the next 24 hours are going to be critical. You need to be planning and making preparations now. This storm has shifted back to the east, so we are now directly in the path of the eye making landfall there, Hancock, Harrison County. So how strong this storm is, we're going to get the brunt of it, and everybody just needs to pay attention on the next 24 hours. Any evacuation notices that are issued, none have been given yet, but just be prepared to act accordingly. And we're going to keep you informed as best we can now over the next 24 hours as we prepare for this storm to make landfall.
And I would recommend, I want to throw in a plug for you here. You do a great job over at MEMA on your Facebook page, putting information out over there, and people should go and follow that.
Yeah, absolutely. My communications team is some of the best in the biz. I'm very, very humbled to have them. They do a great job, and they do a good job pushing information out. So, yeah, if you haven't friended us on Facebook, go out and do so, because a lot of really, really good information goes out of there frequently throughout the day.
Greg Michel, Executive Director of MEMA, we appreciate your time, sir. I know you got stuff you've got to get to. We have a hurricane coming in. So go take care of that, and we'll talk to you again. And at some point, I just want to get you in here, and we'll talk about fishing or something down the road. One day we'll have the opportunity to do that, at least, I hope.
Me too. Put me on the agenda. Let's see if we can make that work. I'd love to do it.
We just got to find a gap in your schedule, sir. Greg Michel, we appreciate it. It's always a joy to talk to him. Does a fantastic job over at MEMA, but we do need to be aware of this storm coming in, especially down